The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has set up an investigative committee to address the incessant collapse of the national grid. The minister had summoned the leadership of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission and the Transmission Company of Nigeria to an emergency meeting at the weekend after the grid collapsed twice within a week. In response to the development, the minister has constituted a forensic investigation committee with a mandate to advise the government on necessary solutions to make the national grid robust and reliable, in addition to the ongoing efforts of the government, like the Presidential Power Initiative and the Nigerian Electricity Transmission Project. The committee is also to establish the root cause of both incidents, especially a review of the potential sabotage of the system. In addition, the committee will review the national grid stability and identify investments and technical capacities required to make it smart and resilient. Meanwhile, while the federal government of Nigeria is busy setting up an investigative committee to address the incessant collapse of the national grid, the Enugu State Electricity Regulatory Commission on Tuesday took over full regulatory oversight of the state's electricity market from the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. According to the state officials, it is a significant step towards state-level empowerment in the electricity sector, which was made possible by the enactment of the Enugu State Electricity Law 2023 and the establishment of the EERC. Joining us now on this show is Chief Sunday Oduntan, MD/CEO, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, ANED, and spokesperson for all discos. He will be joined by Chijioke Okonkwo, Chairman of the Enugu State Electricity Regulatory Commission, EERC. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay, Chief Sunday Oduntan.
Thank you, Dr. Abati, and good morning.
The minister says he has set up an investigating committee. Look, when Nigerians don't want to solve a problem, when they don't want to address a problem, they set up committees. When the committee finishes its work, another committee will be set up to review the findings of that committee until the Nigerian people will forget about it. Our own concern as Nigerian people is this: why is the grid perpetually collapsing? And what are the possible solutions? That's for you, Chief Oduntan, and Mr. Chijioke Okonkwo. Well, the development in Enugu State with the Enugu State Electricity Regulatory Commission now taking over the regulatory function in that particular state. I know there is a law, passed by this president that gives that power to the state governments. Do you think, that the states getting involved will be a way forward to prevent this Cuba-like situation that Nigeria faces on and off? Because in Cuba, it was even the entire country that lost electricity supply for the past 1 week. Until we get to that point, we should look for solutions. But let's start with Chief Oduntan.
Okay. Thank you very much. First of all, it is true that the national grid has collapsed 105 times in the last 10 years. The last grid collapse that happened a few days ago was because of an explosion of a transformer in Jeba. And once the transformer exploded, the load dropped and the system collapsed. The incessant collapse is because of lack of proper maintenance, lack of investment, failure by successive government to do the right thing over the years. Whatever you fail to do in the power sector in any country, whatever you failed to do in 1984 will catch up with you in 2024. What we have witnessed is over the years, government just paid lip service to doing the right thing in the Nigerian power sector. And that is a fact. And when everybody spoke earlier about government setting up a committee or the reason for setting up committees, well, I've never been in government. Everybody has been in government. You may know better than people like us why they do things like that. But all I know is that if you look at a period in our history, between 1989 and 1999, a period of 10 years, Nigeria had 4 leaders As of 1989, we had General Ibrahim Babangida, followed by Chief Shonekon, followed by General Abacha, then followed by General Absalam Abubakar. Among those four, Nigeria's population grew rapidly within that period of 10 years, but not a single power plant was built. In any normal country, you build your power, your infrastructure, the power sector infrastructure, in accordance with the growing population. And what we have had is the neglect on the part of government to do what they are supposed to do over the years. And that's not just blaming any government. I'm just saying that this problem started long ago, but it's time for us to do something, because unless we arrest the situation, I'm afraid the grid will continue to collapse. Now, as for the government taking action, I'm aware of a meeting yesterday. I'm aware that there's a public hearing tomorrow. What the government is trying to do now, there are 3 major departments in TCN. For us in NANED, we've been calling for the unbundling of TCN since 2015. I was in the news around September 2015 calling for the removal of system operator away from the grip of TCN. TCN is 100% owned by the government. TCN is still like the same old NEPA. And let's be honest, you cannot continue to have this public utility managing the grid or stabilizing the grid. So now the government have decided in their own wisdom to come up with what they call NISO, Nigerian Independent System Operator. That is exactly what is going to happen now. I hope we will implement it in a good way. I hope we'll put people there on merit. I hope we will not allow sentiment to becloud our judgment when we want to do the right thing for the nation. Unfortunately, in most cases, our leaders are not accessible. And I've said it before that once people become a leader in Nigeria, they are caged at all levels. President, even ministers and governors. And that is the truth. So when we have a problem, we need to get people step out of the box, get people who are not even in government to have their opinion, try to listen to what others have to say so that we can do the right thing. At the end of the day, this is our country. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chijioke Okonkwo, the latest development in Enugu State, and what you think will be the solution going forward with this perpetual, incessant grid collapse.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abati, for that question. So as it turns out, what we're already implementing in Enugu is a possible solution that has been thought out by this administration under the able leadership of Dr. Peter Ndube Simba to solve the electricity problem in the state. Let me refer back a bit to what initiated this entire process and what we're currently doing in Enugu State today. Enugu State basically used to receive about approximately 69 to 70 megawatts from the national grid, and this is for the entire state. We can't say it's adequate for us to ensure that universal access to electricity services at 247 levels to every citizen within the state. We have always been discussing the issues associated with the national electricity system, in which if it is not liquidity challenges today, it is the inadequate supply of gas to our generating companies, or that perception that some discos would be rejecting energy, or the, how do I put it now, the dilapidated transmission infrastructure that has continued to frustrate electricity delivery across the country. So what has he initiated? With the passage of the Electricity Act and the enactment of the Enugu State Electricity Law, we have been set up to drive investment in the electricity sector for the generality of the citizens within the state. What we're doing has not been done anywhere else within Nigeria or West Africa, and once in a while, I would like to think that it hasn't been done anywhere in Africa as a whole. So we are taking a step that is unprecedented, that has never been tested, and taking those baby steps, willing to make those very little mistakes to bring in investment, open up the market, let others come into play at every level of the electricity value chain, be it generation, transmission, distribution, and even retailing. we have set up a law that unbundles the distribution network into a wires business and a retailing component. Retailing happens to be the last mile that is connected to the customers or consumers, in which they can reinforce the network, extend it to locations where it is not currently in existence, and most importantly, meter the consumer so that they also can account for their energy consumption. And we see that what we're doing is going to complement what is currently obtainable at the national level, because we will continue to offtake power from the national grid. However, as a state regulatory entity, we can only regulate electricity activities within our state. And we see opportunities that are there because we can deal directly with the customers. We are on ground. We are closer to the customers to manage their complaints, ensure that the service providers do what they are supposed to do, create that enabling environment for others to come and play, and regulate their activities, while also ensuring that market forces drive their efficiency, their service delivery, and the growth of the sector. I mean, we expect that this would inevitably increase the quality of life for the citizens of the state and grow our energy demand or energy supply to meet that demand. That would also ensure that Enugu actually starts to industrialize. So what we're doing is unprecedented. And like I said, it hasn't been tested anywhere before now. But with the sincerity of this administration and the commitment in which we are putting to the system, we feel that that growth is inevitable. And we're inviting other players to come in and test what is happening in Enugu. Take advantage of the opportunities that we are actually putting out there and presenting to everybody that is a player or a stakeholder in the industry, while also reassuring our consumers and customers, that's the residents and citizens within the state, to give us that time to build our electricity infrastructure. Give us that time to also work with the newly licensed distribution company in Enugu State to grow and carry out that change management and reorientation of their staff to offer quality service to their customers. And we feel that with time only, other states might probably tweak our model, adopt it, adapt it to their own peculiarities and realities, and implement it in their own areas. That way, we can take advantage of all the technological opportunities, be it renewables, that's solar, be it run of water or hydros, be it even waste to power arrangements, take advantage of the CNG virtual gas line supply, as much as take advantage of the existing grid supply or supply from gas, wherever they can get it.
All right.
But to come and implement their businesses. And let me say this, yes.
No, okay, say what you want to say, so that I want to come to ask you a question based on that.
Okay, what I actually wanted to say is that we are not restricting the use of any technology to meet our specific demands, mainly because while some of our citizens are connected to the distribution network, others are isolated from that network. So we are actually looking at homegrown solutions to meet the electricity delivery to specific locations or targeted locations that are not even served, while also looking to improve those for those that are connected to the distribution network and served with some level of electricity services. That's what I wanted to just put on the table.
All right, thank you very much, and congratulations on that. Of course, a lot of people, having heard what you've said, or at least residents in Enugu, will be looking at costs. What would this be? What would the cost to the people be like? You know, especially, would people be able to afford this? Remember that after the Bande issue, now some people are saying, don't give us Bande again. We can't even afford to pay for it. So what would be the cost of this brilliant idea you talked about, you know, better management of electricity and power in the state? What would it be to the people? And then for Chief Oduntan, my question would be, ahead of the hearing tomorrow, public hearing tomorrow, even though some of the solutions are glaring, so as we often ask, you know, what's the purpose of a hearing when there are some very important quick wins? Number one is the SCADA technology. That's the supervisory control and data acquisition in partnership with the World Bank. That's said to be at 70%, and it's said to be hopefully make the management of the grid more effective? Where are we with that? And to what extent will that help this challenge we faced with the national grid? And I'd like you to also talk about suggestions around decentralization of the national grid. That it's too much, and you touched on it, saying that it's just like there's nothing new about it. If it's just concentrated in one area, it should be decentralized and different. We should have smaller grids serving different areas. I'd like you to talk about that as well. So first, I'll go to Mr. Okonkwo on the conversation around price, and then the conversation around solutions to some of these challenges that are obvious, even before we go ahead to the public hearing tomorrow. Mr. Okonkwo first, please.
Okay, thank you very much for that question, Ayo. So let me say this. Basically, at the beginning of every new, how do I put it now, transitional project, it's expected that the cost may just be high. I mean, we are inheriting what is currently obtainable today from the band A all the way down to the band B, C, D, and E, in which they are paying between 69 and lower. But for us that are reviewing what is currently obtainable for those paying within the band A, we're paying 225. So as is currently obtainable, the band A arrangement is not universal across board. However, what we intend to do is to ensure that our customers pay the right price for the electricity being delivered to them. And when we say right price, we'll review the projects. We'll look at the costs in which operators are coming into, are using to bring in their investment and make their investments in Naira. Sorry, let me backtrack a bit. The cost in which investors are coming to invest within our state. We would also look at the cost of delivering that energy to their customers, and look at the debt components associated with it. We as a state are, the law that set us up, let me backtrack a bit too, because I need to give you this information. The law that set us up as a regulatory commission also set up an agency called the Enugu State Electrification Agency. Now, this agency is meant to support power development projects, and rather than subsidize consumption, it would invest in that project or support that project development to the point where the capital investment being undertaken by potential developers is reduced, significantly reduced. We're also opening up the sector in which, so that current players or, how do I put it now, operators can also take advantage of the state's own incentive in which it has put in place, such as the support that's coming from two different private sector entities to ensure that the debt components for implementing projects are also spread out over a period of time to reduce, how do I put it now, that short-term period required to pay back debts. So in the long term, we expect that also market forces would have its part to play in instituting competition in the activities of operators within our space. And with, how do I put it now, continued investment and support coming from both the regulatory institution and private sector operators, we believe that consumers will pay the right cost that is agreeable to them based on a willing buyer, willing seller arrangement with effective PPAs, where subsidies does not have to continue to add to the debt component of the operators.
So in the short term, it might be quite expensive, but long term, hopefully the market forces will come in and competition will help to stabilize that price. All right, Chief Oduntan, your take on my question to you.
Okay. The solution to the grid collapse is very simple. Number one, the Nigerian transmission grid is radial in nature. It goes straight without any loop. In other countries, you have loop. So once there's a problem in Jebba, a press of the button will enable you to divert the power away from Jebba, isolate Jebba, and keep on supplying power. That's number one. Number two, we are 220, we are told, million people in Nigeria, because we don't even have we don't have what I can call census. But we are told that we are 220 million. If we are 220 million people in this country, we are only generating, distributing, transmitting and distributing barely 5,000 megawatts. Just 5,000 plus now. It used to be 4,000. Now, even 6,000 megawatts is far too low for a population of 30 million people. There are at least 32 million households that are connected to the grid. The last time I checked, Ruben Abadi's village is not on the grid. My village is not on the grid in Ogun State. So many villages are still out of the national grid. But those that are currently connected to the grid, we need at least 30,000 megawatts minimum. Now, if you have that minimum, you also need to have what we call spinning reserve. Spinning reserve simply means you have this power generation that is there, spinning like the way generator works, just there. Once there are more demand for electricity, you just bring that one in to ensure that the grid is maintained, the stability of the grid is maintained. But when you don't even have enough, how can you have extra or reserve? That's another problem. So generation needs to go up. Transmission grid needs to be expanded. The capacity is just not there. For the first time, we had a TCN MDCO coming out to say, our equipments are out of date. That's the first time. We have had running battle with at least 2 former MDCOs of TCN because they came out in public to give us pure lies about the capacity of TCN, blaming the disco, blaming generation. We're all siblings, generation, transmission, and distribution. Whatever affects one, affects the other. All of us, we are not efficient enough. All of us have a lot more things to do. But in terms of getting the job done, there's a need for alignment, technical alignment and financial alignment. Technical alignment means if you are generating 10,000 megawatts, you must be able to transmit 10,000 megawatts, you must be able to distribute 10,000 megawatts. Financial alignment means for everything you do, you have to know the landing cost. It is landing cost that determines the selling price. And when you continue to undersell a product, you begin to cut corner. And that's why you see communities buying their poles, contributing money to maintain transformer. And I'm bold to come out and say, you know what, that sort of thing will continue until we have an alignment. Today, only people in band A pay the true cost of electricity. If you are in band B, C, D, or E, government is subsidizing your electricity consumption for by as much as 67%, which means you are not even paying up to half of what you should be paying. And the so-called subsidy is not being paid by government. It is now a kind of shortfall because it continues to pile up. So it is when you are in band A, if your transformer is faulty and you're in band A, I promise you and I assure you we'll be there within 24 hours to fix it. But when we fix it and you are happy, you'll be more than happy to keep on paying. And that's an area where we can talk about revenue assurance. So the issue of pricing, I'm happy. Even with the state electricity board now, I'm happy. The way to go is to decentralize TCN, to have regional grid, to have regional electricity management like that of very good that's coming up. Some states are also coming up. Ekiti is there, about 7 of them. That is the way to go.
I want to ask you this. A couple of years ago, under President Buhari's administration, they talked about a certain Siemens deal.
Yeah.
That if everything had gone the way we expected it to go, by now we should have had installed capacity of over 20,000. Which will be close to that 30,000. Because, okay, look at countries that are generating a lot with about our population. I was talking the other day, I made a mistake when I said Malaysia. No, it was not Malaysia. Indonesia, with almost about our population, does about 80,000 megawatts. Yeah. We do 6,000. We are doing about the same rate at which Ghana is doing for a population of close to 40 million. So what happened to miss positions like that? And for my Mr. Okonkwo out there in Enugu, people are saying that this your new system is putting almost everybody on band A in Enugu. And it's quite expensive for the people. Because yes, people want electricity power. But don't also forget that they don't have the pocket capacity to be able to fulfill that need. So that's your own question. Coming to you, missed opportunities in this sector.
Thank you very much. Right from the government of Mr. Jonathan, I can confirm that a lot of efforts were made by that government to improve the situation in the power sector. They were the one that did the privatization in November 2013. And Mr. Buhari's government, they also, when they brought in the cement deal, it is a good deal. The truth of the matter is that there's no way they could have gone as far as 20,000 megawatts by now, even if they were working every day and every night. What has happened is that
but they said
it is too little.
Egypt did that same quota in almost that same space of time.
Exactly. Another country, I think I will remember one African country, exactly when we started the Mambila project, during the Shehu Shagari regime, that was the same time that that country started their own. While Nigeria would take 20 years to do our own, other countries would take 4 years. That's a question for us as a people and as government. Just now you were talking about people's affordability. That should not determine the cost of electricity. It should be the other way around. It is time for us to put on our thinking cap. What is the landing cost of electricity? You cannot come to Arise TV to place advert and you say, I don't have money, don't give me the appropriate pricing of the advert. Let me do my advert, but at a reduced cost.
But we give discounts.
Well, that's because you can still afford to give that discount. If your landing cost is at 3 naira, you can never give discount that will be below 3 naira, or else the business will collapse. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that, yes, affordability is an issue, but that's an issue for another thing, that for government. If the government think people's earning power need to be improved, that is part of their duty. Go and find out how much it costs to buy a Land Cruiser Jeep, brand new, and ask me how many meters or transformers I can buy with the cost of one Land Cruiser Jeep. So it's about priorities, it's about what we do as a people. So nothing to do with us.
Presidential jet.
Us.
And how many transformers that use presidential jet can cost?
So the point I'm making is that the issue of cost has nothing to do with the private businessmen who have to recover their costs. Once we all agree this is the landing cost, then we should know that we should not sell below that cost. What has happened to Nigeria over the years is that government kept on asking that the electricity should be sold far, far below the landing cost, and they will keep on promising, don't worry, we'll give you the shortfall, that's the subsidy.
And they never
it
pay.
has never been done,
Okay.
and that's the problem.
Okay, let me come to Mr. Chinyoke in Enugu. They said this your new scheme is like putting everybody on band A. What are you saying as regards that? And they say the cost is going to be very high for people. In fact, I just got a message out of Enugu. I think the person is sending the message from.
Okay, so let me say this. Prior to now, yes, there has been some tremendous improvement in electricity delivery to the customers in Enugu. Quite a lot of them have been moved to Band A because they are now getting at least 20 hours of supply or more. While that is the case, I should say that prior to this improvement, the inadequate supply was actually costing the consumers much more than what they are currently paying for electricity. And I would refer it to the fact of self-generation. What we estimated on starting this journey is that over 500 megawatts was being self-generated by the citizens within the state. And in self-generating, they are looking at either the use of generators that run on petrol or diesel. As at the time that this journey was started, petrol was between 650 to 750. Today, the price of petrol in Enugu is between 1,250 or 1,300, while diesel is gone beyond 1,750 to approximately 2,000. So when you consider the cost of generating 1 kilowatt hour with either petrol or diesel, it is practically almost averaging about 500 naira per kilowatt hour, which is ×2 of what Band A consumers are paying today. But that doesn't mean that the Band A is not high. No. I mean, I like what my colleague just referenced about the fact that the price has to be right for the service providers, or that's the price of delivery of electricity to consumers has to be right. I mean, when we take into consideration the fact that the product is unavailable and that we have to rely on self-generation, we have to think for an alternative. How can we improve that supply to consumers that requires them to now shut down their generator and practically even throw it out?
Okay.
Let us leave that angle where we are being referred to as a generator republic. Whenever the light goes off, especially within the day in a commercial district, every suit, every shop, the markets, all turn on from I better pass my neighbor generator to their listers and plants.
Mr. Okonkwo.
You know,
Quickly.
and
Hello, Mr.
we can't
Okonkwo.
imagine what the environmental implication is when all these generators are running in full capacity.
Mr.
And we're
Okonkwo.
talking about over 500 megawatts being self-generated by the citizens.
Mr.
How do we
Okonkwo,
cut
if you
this
can hear
cost?
me.
By having somebody who it is his business.
I get your point.
Yes.
Yeah, we have just about 1 minute or two to go. But there's something I want you to address. There's a piece in The Nation today written by Professor Niyi Akanso talking about network and network failures and the power generation system. And he was making the point, citing the example of Brazil. You have talked about decentralization of the grid. He's talking about decentralization of options like renewables and others. Is this something you are thinking about in Enugu State? Very briefly. And to you, Chief.
It is on our front burner. Yes, it is on our front burner. So in Enugu today, we're opening up all the energy natural resources that exist within the state for use by potential developers. If you want to use, Enugu is a coal heaven. If you want to use coal, as long as you have taken the environmental considerations in setting up a coal-fired power plant, by all means, come in, but put in place your environmental management system and ensure that you're not discharging the carbon into the atmosphere, because we do not want a situation whereby we contribute significantly to the climate component. But yes,
his point is that it's not just about generating power. You must have alternative sources, like Brazil, where they do 130,000 to 150,000 megawatts per annum with comparable population. But Chief, briefly, we're rushing, just for you to talk about energy theft. Because you are talking about people on band B to this being subsidized, and band A people, only the people who pay the reflective prices. So it looks like it's only band A people like us on this table, who are paying for electricity. Others are stealing electricity. Quickly.
Okay, thank you very much. A major problem in the Nigerian electricity supply industry is energy theft. And energy theft is not limited to the poor alone. A few years ago, we caught a man with a Bentley in front of his house, here in Lagos State, Ikeja, GRA. We had the same problem in a place called Bompai in Kano, a very rich Alaji in Kano State. There's a place called Refid Estate, Refid GRA in Jos. We caught very rich man stealing energy. In Transamadi in Port Harcourt, I can go on and on. We have a record of all of these things. The man in Ikeja, Bentley cost more than 150 million naira to buy. He stole energy of 68,000 naira. That's the poverty of the mind. And for the poor, very rampant. There's a stage, once the governor failed to pay salary on time, people keep stealing energy. That's a major problem.
One of those challenges that will need to be addressed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief Sunday Oduntan. Thank you, Mr. Okonkwo from Enugu State, for joining us.